The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
And it's the start of another week on the show. Today we'll be discussing 1976's Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw. Returning to the show to join me for that conversation from the Windy City Double Feature Picture Show and the Halloweenies, it's Mike Vanderbilt.
Thank you very much, Brandon, for having me back. I had such a great time talking about Jason Goes to Hell with you guys on here. It was a blast. It was a long month of Jason Goes to Hell chats for me.
Yes, it was a great debut, and we were 50% of your output for that day for Jason Goes to Hell.
Yes, we were, but like a solid 50%.
Solid 50%. It was great. I had a blast. We made a fun promo for it. I got a lot of comments about your turn to the camera in the promo. It was a good move. Yeah. It was a good move.
That was fun. I can't pretend. I enjoy being on camera. I really do.
Yeah. So last time we talked about Halloweenies because it kind of rather fit with what we were talking about, and it was something we were working on. But since then, you've created the Windy City Double Feature Show. Do you want to kind of give a overview of what that's about rather than me stumble through what it is?
Absolutely. It was a gentleman by the name of Adam Karsten, who I'd never met before. He was recommended to get in touch with me by our mutual friend, Mike McPadden, who passed away, unfortunately, sadly, unexpectedly, the author of Teen Movie Hell and Heavy Metal Movies. He said, you two need to get together and do something because, I don't know, of our similar interest in old shit. And Adam's a bit of a historian, and he's been working on a documentary about Mr. Kelly's, which was a popular comedy club, but they did like music and everything else too in Chicago throughout the 60s and I think into the 70s. So he would research old newspaper articles and about Mr. Kelly's. But one of the things he started doing was he started researching what double features played around Chicago and where, which is a very niche, very, laser focused thing that when I heard about this, I absolutely loved. He's got his Twitter account, his Instagram account called Windy City Ballyhoo. So we got together. We still never met in person because we started recording the show back in October with the intention of having a backlog of episodes so that we would never miss a week when we started it in 2021. But because of the pandemic, stay-at-home orders, everything else, we've never actually met in person, which is funny when people say you guys have a really good rapport, a really good dynamic with each other. Thank you. But it's funny. And what we do on a show is we pick a double feature. And what I like doing about this show versus Halloween is, you know as well as anybody that horror is very much in the zeitgeist right now. But we made it a point, even though our premiere episode was Fade to Black and Alligator that played at the Chicago Theater, was a horror episode. We didn't want to fall back on that too much because it's something that we could both talk about ad nauseum and easily. But we really wanted to spread our wings a little bit and get into comedy, action, drama, everything, all different eras. We've gone as far back as the early 60s, but we've discussed doing double features that played around Chicago in the 40s and 50s, and just to kind of get out of your comfort zone and do some research. And I enjoy podcasts that teach me something new, and I enjoy doing Windy City Double Feature as well as Halloweenies because I get to learn something new as well. So we pick a theater that it played at, give a little history of the theater, what was playing around Chicago at the time, what else was going around in Chicago at the time, what was going on in the rock clubs, what was going on in the news. And there's all sorts of cool stuff that we've gotten to dive into. And then we talk about the movies, and then we give our own ratings and we rate the movie. We rate each of the movies, and then how we think the double feature played together. Was that a good, because a lot of the times when you program a double feature these days, when you do rep screenings, like I've been doing at Rock Island Public House, the bar that I work at, where we built a drive-in theater to help us out through the pandemic, and we're going to keep it rolling because we've had so much fun. Doing a double feature is fun to find stuff that's interesting. There's a connection, be it an actor, an actress, a theme, a year. But most double features were just kind of put together because the studio wanted to re-release these movies and they didn't know what to do with them.
Right.
So there's a lot of wild, like, how the hell did these two end up together? One of my favorites was an episode we haven't aired yet, was The Landlord. Hal Ashby's The Landlord paired with Lee Van Cleef in Sabata, a spaghetti Western.
Okay.
Out of the two, it's the spaghetti Western won for me. The Landlord didn't do it for me, but I absolutely adored Sabata and immediately became one of my favorite spaghetti Westerns. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy working with Adam, and it's just, it just fits into my wheelhouse of tracking down and researching weird little factoids and fun facts, which we're going to get into a little bit today with today's movie, which I'm sure is going to pop up at least once on Windy City Double Feature, because I did see, I think it was playing around town on a double feature with Martin Scorsese's Boxcar Birthday. If not as a true
that would
double
go
feature,
together good. That would
absolutely,
nicely, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody would check it out. We are on Twitter at Windy City DFPS, which I swear to God was the easiest handle I could find.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Fade to Black here, and that's coming up in a sec. But your show is I've listened, and it is. I'm like, how many months did it take to prepare for a episode? Like, the research is there. Like, where are you coming up with these? Like, does he just have papers laying around, or like? Because some of the information's impressive to pick up on. Because he has a list. He's got a Google Doc that he keeps. He just finds them and files them away, and then usually, honestly, we usually have about a week or so when we pick what double feature we're going to do the research. But typical C students, we're usually doing all the research the day of the show, right?
But as a bartender, I keep weird hours, so it's nothing for me to say, okay, just get up early tomorrow, i.e. 11 o'clock a.m. and, sit in front of the computer and click through Internet Movie Database and Wikipedia. And I think what that says about podcasting and about, just loving films in general, all this information that we talk about in the show and all the information we talk about the show today, it's there. It's all there, but it's a matter of sitting there and doing the research and using creative thinking to say, oh, wait a minute, I recognize that name. Why do I know that person? Where do I know them from? And trying to piece together the narrative. And there's also on Halloweenies doing research on the poster for Sleepaway Camp, I found out that the artist, who his name is escaping me now, also did art for the Transformers toys.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the kind of thing, like, I don't know, you can't really write a whole article about that.
Yeah.
But God damn it, I love knowing that. I love telling people that I know that.
We'll call
I'm
him
like
Tim
most
Sleepaway.
of these. Yeah. Oh, I love Sleepaway Cat. I love it.
I'm a fan of that series. Yeah.
Oh, the whole series, huh? The
2 and 3. I'll take 2 and 3. Not so much that fourth one they made that were like, we're better than 2 and 3. And I'm like, oof. I'll say that 2 is, I really enjoy 2. 3 is like, okay, we're wearing out what we did in 2 now, but I'll take one of those. But yeah, no, I think it's funny. I'm not a Chicago person. I'm not into Chicago history, but I'm drawn into what you're talking about in the episode and the things surrounding when a movie came out. It reminds me of a podcast I liked that never got to finish itself, was the 80s All Over. I don't know if you ever listened to that one.
That was Mondays before I'd go to work. I would listen to 80s All Over on my while I had lunch, and it was something I look forward to every week. And if this can kind of carry the torch a little bit, I'd be proud of that. And something our mutual friend Katie Reif mentioned to me when we were talking about the show was, it does seem like a niche thing. Like you were saying, you're not a Chicago guy, but you're interested in it. But I mean, I would listen to a podcast about movies that played the grindhouses of New York, or movies that played the theaters of Los Angeles. Why isn't Chicago spoken of in that same breath? I don't think people realize how much of a strong grindhouse scene we had through the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s is full of just Chicago movies in general. It was a movie city. Like you had all the Second City people coming back to Chicago when they got famous and making movies there.
Absolutely. So I don't see it as it's niche, but it's not that niche that like people in Los Angeles and New York shouldn't be paying attention. I'm talking directly to you, people in Los Angeles and New York, because if Mr. Indianapolis here can listen to it, so can you.
There you go. Yeah, no, it was real. I just like it. I get the history. We all know about the premieres of the big movies and all that. But what about like something that feels almost it's not it's a big city, but it's also feels kind of localized. You're talking about different theaters and what it was like to go to them. I have a theater that when I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We had these Holiday 1 and Holiday 2, and they were gigantic theaters.
The big screen, the big screen, like you don't see anymore.
And they would deck out their lobbies, and it had a personal touch to it. It wasn't just cardboard stand-ups delivered by the studio. I mean, I remember even up to when Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out, they like painted the window with like Freddy's back and had a mannequin with a Freddy sweater and all. You don't get that anymore. And then they built the Holiday 6, which was a multiplex right in the corner, and slowly shut those down. And then they leveled them, so you couldn't even reopen them if you wanted.
The showmanship, the ballyhoo, which I love. There's a great picture of somebody dressed as a werewolf at a premiere of a New York theater for The Howling. I saw a local theater have somebody dressed as Jason Voorhees for a premiere of Friday the 13th Part 3. I can't remember where the theater was at, but I'll share them on our social medias when this episode drops. And
I saw that Howling one. I'm like, I missed that. That's what people would go to that's where the magic is missing for the theaters. They're all corporately owned. And I mean, that don't allow for that kind of freedom.
And I'm a sucker for that kind of ballyhoo because at Rock Island Public House, when we're doing the drive-in, we did a tribute to Mike McBeardo McPadden. And one of the films we showed was Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. And myself and my bartending partner, Ashley, dressed as Paul Stanley and Peter Criss, makeup and all. And I love doing it. In the age of social media, even if nobody at the bar cares or gets it,
I loved it. Yeah.
You'll get to put it out there. And for the most part, people at the bar love it when they see that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, people care about, you didn't dress. I mean, you dress for yourself, but you dress for them to see it, for them to have a little bit extra. And
I love doing it too, but like, you want to, I'm hoping to line my pockets too, considering what we paid for those fucking costumes.
Right.
And I tell you what, my Paul Stanley costume was so disappointing considering how much money it was. It's like, I expected more. I expect that kind of nonsense from Gene, but not from Paul. I was very disappointed.
There you go. Yeah.
You hear me, Paul Stanley?
Yeah, I mean that show. Yeah, your show's got that great, just historical theater, like what was going on with these movies in other towns, not just a red carpet thing. Or 42nd Street, New York, you've got great stories too. Don't worry, but other cities probably have them as well.
And I liked it. It's why I like regional filmmaking. It's kind of that small town mentality. Like, what else was going on? We've heard enough about, did Local H write the song "I'm So Sick of California" songs, and the last line is "and fuck New York too." They should put that on the Chicago flag.
Oh yeah, and it's funny, like those things with those little towns too. I mean, even if one thing happened there's a huge history of everybody's experience with that. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. This set just came out for season 8 from the 70s, and they shot this one serial in this little town in like Ireland or something, and they had a feature where they went back there, and like everyone in the town, whether they're 5 years old or they're 80, had a story to tell about that. Awesome. Because people talk about it, they have things up from it, everybody had pictures people had never seen, and I think that's like really neat and different angles you can get other than the typical retrospectives that you see a lot of the time. And
I like weird. Yeah. I like stuff to be a little bit left of center. And I think my favorite review of Windy City Double Feature kind of put the nail on the head with the research is very academic, but the presentation is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you're a good showman, so I know everything.
The William Castle of the South Side. Nobody's ever actually called me that, but I'm trying to make it stick.
Hey, it's great. I mean, between like I don't live near Chicago. I'm not paid for the Rock Island Public House, but damn, I'm like, man, looks like a fun time there tonight, like all the time. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, and your double features, awesome. I'm like, oh man, I would go up there to see that if it wasn't like 4.5 hours away.
Well, yeah, a friend of mine just came back from Indianapolis because he's been going down there for the Oral Roberts games.
Oh, okay.
Who I have going pretty far in my NCAA pool just because I wanted them to play Moorhead University because that's the kind of thing I think is funny.
That's the best matchup you could have, yeah.
Too bad Ball State wasn't in it.
Oh, I know. That's where I went. So, yeah, I was a I was a Cardinal. Ball Stater. I went to all our buildings were. I mean, we had a lot of buildings named Ball, so we went to a lot of ball.
There's
there.
a lot of balls all over the place.
A lot of balls all over. The Ball family. The ball. I was in the Ball Communications building. That's where we talked balls all the time. But yeah, I love your double features. Speaking of, I want to mention because I always talk about this double feature dream I have. Transformers the movie, the cartoon from the 80s, and Boogie Nights. Only one through line there, but
I love that. I can't. When's this episode dropping?
Monday.
So I'll just give a little bit of a tease, but we're doing a weekend that may involve one of the movies that you mentioned.
Oh, excellent.
That has a very amusing to me through line, but
nice.
You're just going to have to tune into the James Van Osdol show when I announce that on April 5th.
All right. April 5th, but looking forward to it. But yeah, I always find it. I had a fist pump moment where, so you know, you got the touch of that song, goes to Boogie Nights, and then Bumblebee had You Got the Touch. I'm like, oh, they brought it back full circle. It's like
I still haven't seen Bumblebee because I did not like any of the main Transformers movie, the Michael Bay Transformers movies. But I hear that one is absolutely worth watching.
If I get one movie to say, oh, fucking nostalgia, it was Bumblebee. That was it. I was on the Michael Bay ones, and then I saw. I'm like, oh, this is the one they made for me. Awesome. And then they're like, we're gonna go back to the other stuff.
The 1986 movie remains one of my favorites, and it's a question I always ask myself: is it truly nostalgia, or do I really just think it's that great a movie? Because I really do think it's that great a movie, and I'm not sure if it's being clouded by nostalgia. But I suppose I will never know.
It's I hate to try to talk about Transformers the movie as like it's beyond movie, but it's an experience almost. The way the animation and music come together in that, the fact that there's dialogue and shit is almost bonus. Like it's just a like sit back and just like soak this thing in, and it's just weird anime music, like 80s metal weird hybrid thing that works.
And somebody came up with that and it worked. I love it. But that's another episode. Okay, now we know what we're doing for our next episode.
All right, Transformers the movie. All right, we'll move on now to Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw?
Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw.
Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw is directed by Mark Lester, written by Vernon Zimmerman, and starring Linda Carter, Marjo Gortner, Jesse Vint, Mary Lynn Ross, and Belinda Belatsky. It features a young country star wannabe who takes off from her car hop career to join with a young modern Billy the Kid wannabe for an adventure in theft, murder, and mayhem. So, Mike, as I ask all the time, why did you pick this movie to come onto the podcast?
So this was actually a fairly recent discovery of mine when stay-at-home orders hit with the pandemic last May 15th. I said, well, I got a lot of free time on my hands for the first time in my life, because there's something I always mention. So I'm a bartender. That's my career. That's what I do. And something I always told myself as somebody who has an accounting degree, I have a bachelor's degree. I always said, no matter what happens in my life, with my career, with whether there's war, there's famine, and people are rich, people are poor, I'll always be able to tend bar. And this was the first time in my 15 years attending bar that I was not able to tend bar, because all the bars were closed. You just couldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, this is the first time in my life where I'm actually going to have what we thought would be 2 weeks, essentially 2.5 months off. And I said, I'm going to start going through just watching movies that I'd heard about, that I'd read about, just watching movies all day. That's what I wanted to do. What else could I do? And this was one of the first ones I picked because I like the poster. I like American International Pictures, and I was aware of it being having a very special place in the heart of Jim McBride, the creator of Mr. Skin, because this film features now one of his and now one of mine favorite cinematic duos in Linda Carter.
There you go.
But it's also got Marjo Gortner, who I'm a fan of.
Right.
And it just looked like my kind of thing. And because it combines a couple of my favorite sub genres of 70s cinema. It's got Hicksploitation. It's got Bonnie-sploitation. It's a road movie, and it has all that great 70s country grit that was in the zeitgeist in the 70s, which I believe...
It's like a Southern The Getaway. You mentioned Bonnie and Clyde, but it's got kind of a Southern Getaway feel.
Yeah, and I just I watched it, and I immediately kind of fell for it. I just really dig this movie.
Yeah, and for people like when you mentioned about the your favorite duo, this I was watching. I was like, if I knew about this movie, a kid in the 70s and 80s, this is like the do you want to see Linda Carter naked movie?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is what this is.
But Mark Lester explained on the commentary that this movie, it wasn't lost, but it was a big. It showed on HBO a lot.
Okay.
But home video wasn't around until '83, so a lot of people just kind of forgot about it. And Linda Carter has not disavowed the movie, but she has disavowed the lovemaking scenes where she does bare her breasts,
right,
because she has become a born again Christian later in life.
Yeah, and it's funny because this dropped right at when Wonder Woman did.
Yes,
like around the same time. Had this been like just years later, she'd have been probably recast because we were about to hit the satanic panic moral majority 80s. I don't know if this was a small movie, but they'd have possibly found the first child to have their strict, Christian evangelical mother find this.
Right.
Would have been, she would have been run off. But
then the funny thing is about the scenes of her bare breasts, like they reused the same sequence like 3 times in the movie,
and
that was the producer, old Samuel, because this was an independent production.
Mm-hmm.
But it was picked up for distribution by American International Pictures, who were kind of having a heyday right now with exploitation of all sorts. Blaxploitation. They had done well with horror in the 60s and moved into all the other exploitations into the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually gave him a little bit of money to, juice it up, add some scenes, shoot a little bit more. But they say, oh, we need some more of that lovemaking scenes in here to sell this, particularly to like Roger Corman. That was always his thing with the foreign investors. We need more sex, more violence, and if we can combine the two, even better.
Yeah, they evolved. I mean, they were, they were basically, there's them and Hammer in the 60s, 70s, and then they evolved better than Hammer did. I mean, product wise, I think they did.
Yeah, because I think by expanding, I think that was a smart decision on their part. And then they were by '79, they were done, and Avco Embassy actually was one of the companies that kind of picked up the slack there for a minute in the early 80s.
Yeah. And
the slack of the drive-in feature, if you will.
Right. And this is an early Mark Lester film. I'm actually a pretty solid Mark Lester fan.
Same.
And at this point he had Truck Stop Woman and Women in Steel Arena, but
he considered it part of an unofficial Americana trilogy that he was
makes
making.
sense. But he goes on to make Roller Boogie, Class of '84, Class of '99, Firestarter, Commando, Showdown in Little Tokyo, the John Candy movie Armed and Dangerous. Still kind of working, but those are kind of the notable ones that people would pick up on.
Night of the Running Man with Andrew McCarthy was a good direct to HBO one that was on cable all the time when I was a kid. And Mark Lester, I think, is just a solid, and if you watch him in interviews, a very sharp guy. I think just a solid exploitation director.
He kind of has touches that remind me of like John Carpenter a little bit.
Indeed, very workmanlike in a way, but you can almost always tell he's workmanlike, but he has a distinct visual eye, which you see all over Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw with those great vistas. And he, like Carpenter, is an acolyte of John Ford, and I think that's a good descriptor of him.
And Firestarter is like almost a Carpenter. Carpenter was gonna do Firestarter, but then the thing bombed and he got kicked off that. So
and that's what made me think. I wonder if they said, "Well, get us his non-union equivalent," right?
Right. And then Dean Cundy shot Roller Boogie, so he's got that. I've touched Dean Cundy. Now I have the Carpenter thing. So there's maybe that, which I think Roller Boogie's a fun little movie.
Oh, Roller Boogie's a good one. There's a funny story where that was on TV one night, like recently, like not recently, but maybe in the past 10 years. Well, after everybody had cable, and it seemed like everybody I knew for some reason was watching fucking Roller Boogie that night. Even my mom. And I was like, "You ever see this Roller Boogie movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was just watching that one."
Oh, such a good tale. And it's the Zimmerman who wrote it. He would write and direct Fade to Black and Unholy Rollers.
Unholy Rollers has an interesting connection in that it was Martin Scorsese's credited with some of the editing alongside George Trigoff and Yoon Bi-yi. And it also features Claudia Jennings, another Corman favorite.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a movie I've been meaning to talk about on a show for I don't know how many years.
Fade to Black or Unholy Rollers?
Unholy Rollers. That one. Fade to Black also is a good one. It's recently
Fade to Black definitely came back into zeitgeist with its restoration from Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was one I'd seen on the cable when I was a kid and just kind of saw it, knew it existed, and forgot about it until I saw the poster one day. I was like, how can I can't find, what is this movie? What is this thing?
It was one I had to scour. Like I always wanted to see it. And it wasn't until I lived in Los Angeles and I found some video store that had it on VHS to rent that I was able to finally check that off my long time needing to watch list. So that was good. Then our other big main player, Marjo Gortner, this guy has one of the most interesting start any actor ever. Have you seen the documentary Marjo?
Absolutely, I have.
Wow,
the Academy Award winning documentary.
Yes. That thing, I saw it a long time ago. But wow, so people who don't know, you probably recognize Marjo Gortner if you watch a lot of movies. But he was a not televangelist, but evangelical preacher who,
as a child,
a child
preacher.
And then he decides, for years he doesn't buy into it, but he decides to go back just for the money. And then he consciously is like, I can't do this anymore. So he gets a documentary crew to go on his farewell tour while they're showing him preaching to people and doing all this crazy shit. And then behind the scenes, he's like, yeah, this is all bullshit. This is yeah. And then he becomes this actor, and
which I think that's apt when he started working, doing a lot of American International and pictures where it is just a lot of ballyhoo and a lot of bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Because he did Food of the Gods the same year he did this. He was in Earthquake. And he'd go on to be the villain of American Ninja 3 as well. But
I think my least favorite of the American Ninja series.
Yeah, no, it's the worst one.
Because that's the one without Dudikoff, but Dudikoff comes back in 4.
Yeah, he comes back in 4.
But they bring him back with the guy from 3, who his name escapes me right now.
Yeah, it escapes most people.
Gortner also appears. He's notable because he appears in one of my favorite Lucas-exploitation films.
Oh, Star Crash. Yes.
Star Crash. Hell
yeah.
I
love that one. Yeah, that is that is a trip.
And this is turning into a Vinegar Syndrome love fest because he's also in Mausoleum, which has some great monster effects from John Carl Belcher that I really highly recommend that one.
Yeah, that is a cool
great
one.
Box art too.
That was a blind buy on a Black Friday for me when that came out. I was like, what? And and then the next week the slip cover's going for $300 on eBay. So
I know it's slip covers are one of those things that I kind of hate them. I'm a Vinegar Syndrome subscriber.
Vinegar Syndrome actually puts effort into theirs. There's a good material. I'll give them that.
But I don't need them. So sometimes I look, because I'm a subscriber to Vinegar Syndrome. I do the yearly thing. I look at somebody's like, man, I could probably pay for my subscription every year by just selling some of these slip covers.
Right. Yeah. That's me too. I prefer, if it has one, I prefer it, but if it's not, I'm not gonna go scouring for the rare one on the
It's usually in my way. I just want to get to the movie.
Well, some of them, they're new ones, the Action USA and stuff, they do this top loader thing, and it's hard with the plastic to get it back. I'm like, oh man, a lot of damage. But anyways, that's for our Vinegar Syndrome, Brandon Peters After Hours episodes.
Yeah, love what they do.
Good guys. So this movie, as you mentioned, it's got Bonnie and Clyde exploitation type movie, and you just kind of lull into it a bit.
It's very much, but I was trying to think about what is it about this movie that appeals to me so much, and I think because the first half is mostly a hangout picture.
Yeah.
And movies like this I dig the vibe. I like the world. It's a world that I want to live in. I realize that's something I like about a lot of exploitation, but particularly exploitation. This film was shot around New Mexico, Albuquerque, Truth and Consequences.
But the funny thing is, I was like, this is a total Texas movie. And then I'm like, what, New Mexico?
I assumed Los Angeles, but I guess Lester had shot truck stop women down there.
Okay.
And I appreciate filmmakers who don't just shoot in Los Angeles
Right.
because
Or Canada.
yeah,
Sorry, Canadians.
it just looks like Los Angeles. It just looks like Canada.
Right.
At least shooting in New Mexico, it's got a vibe. It's got something to it. Like you said, it feels like Texas, but it isn't. And then when you watch it again, knowing that it's New Mexico, you get a lot of, and there's so much great neon and smoky bar rooms. It's just an atmosphere. It's a world that I want to go live in. It's one of the reasons why I love, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much. Like I want to live in this world, even if nothing happened in this movie in Bobbie, Jo, and the Outlaw. I wouldn't mind hanging out with these good looking young people for a couple hours.
Right. And I noticed, so I watched it twice, for this, and the second time I watched it, in the first about half of the movie, there's a thing I liked about with Marjo's Lyle character's doing. He's slowly building Linda Carter into just buying into everything he does. Like I don't think he's vindictive or anything.
No,
I
but
think
he
still
is.
believes she could have a country career, but it's going to be on his terms. But the crimes like start small, slower, and then she's in it. She's got guns blazing and fuck the police and all that stuff. And
it's interesting that they never give, like, she does sing. So she does sing in a movie. She has a guitar.
They do drop it a bit.
And she sings, what's the name of the song? I have it written down here because I thought it was interesting. She performs, hold on, not Thunder Rolls.
Would be interesting, but
she performs Are You Lonely Like Me?
Yes, yeah.
Which is written down. Here was one of my favorite fun facts. But I was gonna say she performs the song, and like they never really give her a moment. Like you kind of expect her to play in a bar sometime or like have some success, and they never do that. And I kind of appreciate that. But the song Are You Lonely Like Me that Linda Carter sings and performs, it was written by this guy J.C. Crowley. Now J.C. Crowley at the time was dating what's her name? The other actress in the movie. Belinda Balaski.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So after this movie, J.C. Crowley goes and forms the band Player, who had a hit with Baby Come Back that apparently, according to Balaski, was written about her after they broke up.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's a fun little, I like that. It's one of my favorite songs. I refer to it as Oatsploitation because it's definitely trying to rip off Hall & Oates. But that was a fun little bit of trivia about that song. But they never really give her, like they kind of dropped the country singer thing and they just turned her into a criminal. And I appreciate that. I like that.
Yeah. Like but she's young, so that could easily, I'll get to it later or, pass it by the wayside. She's now into this. And
yeah, she's into Robin Banks. And like I said, I don't think Gortner is, to use a buzz term, to use the term gaslighting.
No,
like you said, being vindictive about it. I think they genuinely do love each other.
Yeah.
I think they
but he knows who he is and he needs to ease her into it. That's what I think he's kind of trying to do. Because
she had several times where she could turn it away, but she just is attracted to the thrill of it.
Yeah. And her friend is just, she sees through it like majority of the time, but is like such a nothing burger person that I think she feels that if they were to get caught, she would be fine no matter what. And
and she ends up ratting him out. But that's Belinda Balaski as Essie Beaumont. Now she's somebody who we might give the Golden Hot Dog Award to on Windy City Double Feature because you want to talk about a great character actor career. She must be a favorite of Joe Dante's because she shows up in Piranha, The Howling, Gremlins, Matinee, Nightmare Cinema, and she's really good in this. And they had her put on glasses and stuff and look hippie-ish because she didn't think she could. I think she did it. No, she did it for herself because she didn't think she could compete with Linda Carter in the looks department. So she wanted to bring like a different spin to her character.
Gotcha. And I had an interesting thought when I'm where we've gone in life when I'm watching, and I'm like, Linda Carter looks stunning in this movie, right?
Oh my goodness. Otherworldly is how I would describe it.
Would she have been given a chance in today's, like they'd have been like, she's too big, like she's too tall.
Well, yeah,
she's too thick. I'm like, no.
Well, she was Miss America before this too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like but I often, like when I'm looking at her, I'm like, I don't know if I think she'd, but yeah, they'd probably say, like you said, She's not skinny enough. She
It's
doesn't
like
look
we're too
this certain
hard
way.
on like like you and I are doing, but like I mean the people who some of the pop culture like aficionados and then like the casting people like want like twigs in movies. I'm like she is perfectly. If you saw her in person, she'd probably look way smaller than that. Like it's
Well, I was wondering about her because she looks tall
yeah.
in this movie, and I wondered if she was like one of those like Sylvester Stallone. It was just a little because, and back to Sylvester Stallone was actually almost
In this movie, yeah,
he was almost
He's
not Bobby
backup.
Joe. He's almost what's his name?
Lyle.
Lyle Wheeler.
Yeah.
And that I once met an actor. So I gave a really good review to a film at a film festival. It was a, little trashy horror movie. And I was hanging out with some people afterwards, and the subject of the movie came up. I really liked that. And the guy's, "Oh, don't you recognize me? I'm the star." And I looked down and I say, "Oh, no, I did not recognize you." For no other reason. I must have missed it. But he was I am not a tall individual, and he was shorter than I was.
Oh wow. I've been with Robert Downey Jr. before, and he is like really tall, really. I think my son right now might be taller than him. He's 9. I was just like, wow, little guys. But hey, they look good on camera.
They look good on camera. You just got to shoot them the right way, right? Tom Cruise, another one.
Right. Oh yeah. And so like this movie also, I'm watching and I'm like, a lot fucking happens in under 90 minutes in this.
Really?
And today, there's no way this could not help itself but be 2.5 hours. But they accomplish all character stuff, all action, progressive like stakes just rising and shit. It's all there in like 86 minutes. Today they'd feel like they need 80 billion backgrounds and dialogues and it's just perfect as it is.
This is the kind of movie that feel like some movies feel long at 86 minutes that shouldn't feel long. This movie feels long because you can't believe they crammed all this great stuff.
And it still feels loose. It still feels loose too. That's the amazing thing. Like it just roams free, and there's like in the last like third of the movie, there's like a bunch of action sequences back to back to back to back, and
some great action sequences. One of my favorites is when they rob the bank and lasso the safe out of there with the truck, which is a nod to Billy the Kid. As you mentioned, he's a kind of a Billy the Kid type in this. And the director, Lester, had read that in a book that's actually featured in the movie because Marjo Gortner's character is reading it. It's called, what do I have here? Bloodletters and Bad Men by J. Robert Nash.
Considered a spoiler on the IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
That was under the spoiler section. I was like, okay, sure.
And J. Robert Nash ended up suing him, and he probably would have never sued him if he didn't put the book in the movie.
Oh.
Because that's what Gortner's reading from at the funeral.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, and they pull it open at the end too. And then they also like later down the generations later, Fast 5 would do that in a movie where they drag a safe with bigger safe cars. But
well, those aren't those truly the modern day exploitation films, the Fast movies?
For sure. Yeah, carsploitation. Yeah,
carsploitation. I love it.
Yeah, and I can't help with like Marjo Gortner here the whole time. I'm like, this is like the setting up the prototype for like Matthew McConaughey. Like he is not every movie Marjo Gortner's in, he's like this, but in this one, I'm like, this is total. Like you could put McConaughey here, and it wouldn't change. It wouldn't change a bit.
The skinny, good-looking hillbilly, like not hillbilly, but like Texan, that southern style.
Yeah,
I do love all the costuming in this.
Yeah, Linda Carter gets some great freaking outfits to put
some great halter tops in this one.
Right, yeah.
And Gortner just looks fucking 100% cool in like just a black t-shirt. Like that's all that it needs. Or the sleeveless denim shirt.
Mm-hmm. I do like that Gortner is his Lyle Wheeler. He drives, get it? But he his character, they really established he doesn't like to kill people at all. Like the opening chase, when that cop car flips over, before he leaves, he waits to see if the cop gets out okay, and then he bolts off. And then of course he gets angry when what's his name? Slits a throat. He's haunted by
Slick.
Yeah,
Slick Callahan, played
Yep.
by the great Jesse Vint.
Yes. So he's horrified when he shoots the guy in the head, and then there's the part where he has to do the shootout with the gas station attendant, the draw.
That's a great sequence.
And he's nervous because he's like, I do these, but I don't think he's ever killed someone in one, and he realizes I'm going to kill him. I know I'm better than him, but I've never actually, like, I could feel like in his mind, I've never actually killed someone during one of these.
Something I like what they did with his character that they still do it in movies now, but to badmouth a movie I've badmouthed before, the movie Baby Driver. Mm-hmm. They want to do kind of a gritty heist movie, but they what do I say? They pull punches when they talk about the character of Baby, where they try to make him too sweet, too nice, so that the audience can relate to him. Marjo Gortner is a perfect example. Like, I guess he's a true anti-hero in the sense that he doesn't want to kill these people. That's not his vibe. He just wants to be Billy the Kid. He wants the thrill. He wants the excitement. He wants the legacy, but he will if he has to. So he's not necessarily that sympathetic, but you have enough empathy that you like him, and you kind of hope he just won't kill that guy.
Yeah.
But then he does.
Right.
But you're still in it because you still want to see him get away at the end.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's a point you bring up too. Like I've had a problem with people like, there's like a demand for like, not necessarily with the anti-heroes, but even with the villains, like wanting woke villains. I'm like, they're fucking villains. Like why do they need to be like thoughtful? They're bad. I
think that's fallout from the Marvel movies, who have given us villains that you kind of understand their motives.
Right.
But I like when a bad guy's bad,
Yeah.
And I don't need my hero to be good. There's also, on the flip side, there's a call for people don't understand that just because you enjoy a movie that has an anti-hero or a character that, like Travis Bickle.
Yeah.
And there is not a lot to empathize or sympathize with that man, but like you need to, in order to like that movie, you need to approve of everything the characters do. And I'm not down with that. I don't think that's as rampant as people like to make it is, but if you spend too many days on social media, you'll feel like
exactly. And if you write that person, that doesn't mean you believe that. That's what you believe would be bad. Like give the writer that credit. They're not like praising that. They're not like secretly like that. They think that is evil. So that is how their evil is coming off.
Nice guy characters aren't as interesting. They're boring.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Did you happen to see, I don't want to get too much of it. Did you happen to see Promising Young Woman?
Yeah, I love that movie.
The ending that was divisive is what turned it from a 2.5 star to a 4 star for me. But one thing I loved what they did, not to give any spoilers, but they took that nice guy notion and burst that bubble so good. And that was really when I started like, oh, I really like where this movie's going.
Yeah. No, that movie, I have so much love for that movie. I just posted my Blu-ray review. And normally with that one, I was like, I really want to like get my feelings across right on this one. So I took my time writing it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
It's a movie I just really liked. And I know there's so many good pieces on it already. I'm like, what am I going to add to it? Aside from image quality looks great. The audio is fine.
As we discussed offline before the show, in 10 years, someone will find that review and that'll be the review that makes them want to watch it. Right.
There you go. Yeah. Promising. Okay. Never heard of this though. Nominated for 5 Academy Awards. Oh, she did Zatanna, the DC movie. Okay. I know that person. So, just, I don't know. This movie I watched it twice. Both times were great. Noticed little new things the second time.
I think it's a movie that you really truly will enjoy. I don't think you should have to watch a movie twice to get enjoyment from it.
No.
But I think this is a movie that when you realize what it's doing, that it is more of a hangout picture, that you will appreciate more the second go around, that you just get to spend time with all these characters.
Right.
But you also are treated to so many great locations, so much great aesthetics that I like. Neon, smoky bar rooms. There's a great pinball, the pinball battle.
Pinball, yeah.
I love any movie that features a pinball game, and this one features Gottlieb's Duotron from
Yes.
1974, I believe. Although I don't think there's that's a real way to cheat on pinball. I think that
No, I don't think it's gonna
artistic license.
Yeah. You want some action, friend?
Yeah.
What I like about that one is the little subtle thing that pisses that guy off so bad is when he hands him the cue stick back as he's leaving, goes, "Here you go, boy."
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
I'm like, I was like, they're following him outside. That's yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that I like that are when you see things in movies that are very indicative of the time. Like in another movie, this might have been a pool match that he cheated. But no, this is the 70s. Pinball's hot. We got to put pinball in there. Who knows? That could have been AIP's extra footage for all I know.
I mean, it's on the bar side, the sign outside. Like, oh, we got pinball.
There's a couple great signs. We got pinball, and then the motel that they hang out at the end is showing Deep Throat. I'm assuming in the lobby somewhere.
Right. Yes. Oh, now show. Yeah. I also, we have a strip club in the movie too that we visit, and it's where we pick up her sister. And I love that when they meet up, like she's like, "Well, best I've ever had in the sack. Good dancer too." And it's funny because her sister's like, but like she just met the same kind of guy you did. Like that's exactly. You guys have made the same decisions here.
We got to talk about the sister for a minute. Pearl Baker, played by the great Marilyn Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she's the one who got the money to make this movie.
Oh, really?
She met some record producer. He was getting out of the record business. His name was Steve Brody. He was in the record business, and she kind of just talked to him at a bar, sweet talked him, and got him to invest in this movie. And she kind of had a small career working with Mark Lester as a producer. She did the White House Madness, and she did Class of 1984.
Oh, wow.
And another Stone Cold Fox. But again, it's hard to compete with Linda Carter in this one.
Right. Yeah. But you had to have the blonde to offset the brunette. So
and it's funny. There's a funny story on the audio commentary where the producer is asking Mark Lester, "Did you ever think about dyeing her hair brunette to match Linda Carter's?" And Mark Lester was like, "She got the money. She can do whatever she wants."
Fair enough. If she wanted to be in the movie, I'd say that. There you go. And her boyfriend, he when you first meet him and they're driving together, go pick something up or whatever, that turns out all sorts of shit. He's like, "I'm funny as hell when I'm high."
He's got a couple good. He's got a couple good lines because he's got the other one about a hard man being good to find, which I think I might put that on my business card.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's a bit of you need him, but he's a bit much of a wild card, but you got a chance to get the job done. Yeah,
a little too much of a wild card. But they were gonna get caught up one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. And the sheriff, he's terrific too.
Gene Drew, he was a favorite of Lester's. He was in Steel Arena and Truck Stop Women, the connective tissue of the Lester's Americana crime trilogy.
Wow, yeah. He's like what's her name?
He looks like a sheriff. He's so indicative of the guy you would hire as to play the sheriff in these kinds of movies. But it's kind of funny thinking this
too. You're like, oh
absolutely. And then he's got one of the interesting character actors in here was John Durnan, who plays his Deputy Gantz. So he was in a lot of low budget driving affairs, and he did the Gumball Rally, but then he was a writer too. He even showed up on Wonder Woman too, which is notable.
That's good.
I think a couple, because one of them one of the girls shows up on Wonder Woman as well. I want to say it was Belinda Belaski. Showed up on Wonder Woman, but John Durnan worked with he co-wrote Roommates with Arthur Marks. Arthur Marks is one of my favorite exploitation directors. He did Detroit 9000. He did JD's Revenge. But then he also wrote, and you may have seen this one, he wrote the weirdo Leif Garrett Killer Kid picture, The Devil Times 5.
I know, I haven't seen that one. I know the title, but I've never seen that one.
That one's worth tracking. I think it's on all the free streaming services like Tubi. It's not great, but it's so odd, and it's great.
Those
to
places
see Leif
are
Garrett
good resources for that stuff. I love
indeed.
I know people like to dump on like Amazon, but I'm like, dude, they have so much good trash on Amazon's.
Amazon's look. I give them $100. My shit gets shipped in 2 days,
Mhm.
and I have access to all sorts of junk, and anything else, I'll pay the $4 if I want to watch it right now.
Right. Yeah. Like
I used to have to go to the video store. I used to have to. I was at the mercy of them. If
Mhm.
they didn't have Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw, I wasn't watching Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw.
Right. And then when we got down to just blockbusters and Hollywood videos, they didn't carry that stuff. So
No,
yeah. Unless it was that. So like when I live in Los Angeles, the Hollywood, or not the Hollywood video, but the Blockbuster video on Sunset was 2 stories, and they carried almost everything. Like it was pretty
yeah.
impressive. But when you got 2 stories, you could do that.
My Blockbuster at 111th and Western here on the south side of Chicago, they carried a lot. They carried a lot of the trash because trash just did well in my neighborhood. Like there was another great video store, Popcorn Video. That's where I rented all the blaxploitation and Jackie Chan movies for the first time because they had them.
Yeah.
They had them because the audience that went there loved it. I mean, Village Video was another good one because that's where I first fell in love with Diane Thorne on the cover of the Ilsa movies.
Oh yeah.
And when I think about it now, it's like, who was down here renting these Ilsa movies?
That's funny.
But I'm sure there are some perverts in my neighborhood.
I was in Seattle a couple years ago, and I went to Scarecrow Video. I'm like,
Classic.
I would move here just to be able to walk down here and hang out.
Hang out and take the smell in, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, God, like I was like, man, we don't have much video. We have this really secluded used place in this Columbus, Indiana, that's just strange but has interesting stuff in there. So that's about.
There's one still in existence on the south side of Chicago in the Mount Greenwood neighborhood. They have a recording studio in the back. I'm assuming he owns the building, which is why he can do all this.
Gotcha.
He's got a recording studio in the back. He converts 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter film to VHS, or rather DVD or digital for people.
Okay.
And there was an article on him in the paper. Real nice guy, Ray Vanda, on track recording.
Okay.
And they did an interview with him in the local paper, and what keeps you in business? And he says, porn. It's still porn. Older men still come in there and rent their adult cinema the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Just has a different feeling when you can hold it.
It's tactical.
Tactical. All right.
Not tactical, tactile. Why did I say tactical? What's wrong with me?
Do we got any more we want to talk about Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw?
There's one. Yes. There's one more character actor that kind of blew my mind.
Okay.
James Gammon plays the leather salesman.
Okay.
And he played Coach Lou Brown in Major League.
Oh, wow!
What a great face, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But he's 20 years younger in this one.
Yeah, definitely.
And the only other thing was like Those City Lights, performed by Bobbie Bear.
Yeah, this had a good little kickin' country soundtrack.
What a great tune!
Years before Urban Cowboy would take the reins.
Yeah, and I think it really captures the vibe of this movie, and it's called Those City Lights. It's by Bobbie Bear, who of course is Bobbie Bear Jr.'s dad. And it was released by RCA as a B-side to his single, Put a Little Lovin' on Me. And it was written by Barry DeVorzon, who ended up writing music for Rolling Thunder, Warriors, Ninth Configuration, 3 classic of 70s cinema there. And then also V, The Final Battle.
Yeah, that's a good day. That's a good enough resume right there.
I know, right? Great tune, though, by Bobbie Bear. Like, what a career he had. And it just seems odd. It almost feels like he'd be too big time for this exploitation picture, but I don't know where his career was at that point.
Yeah. Oh, we have that weird peyote scene, right?
Oh,
where they,
with the Native American
shaman,
the proper term? I don't know.
Are we supposed to assume the friend is hooking up with him or something during it's like what? They're all naked in a little pond, and I was like, is that her date now or?
Well, yeah, I got a friend. I've got a friend.
We don't get the peyote if you don't.
And it's actually kind of a cool little sequence because it kind of brings that mythical quality to the whole thing, where Marjo Gortner's character can see that he's not going to get out of this alive. Of course, nobody does, right?
No, nobody.
And it's a great ending with
Linda Carter does, but
Linda Carter gets out of it alive and becomes, like she.
Like you kind of know what's going to happen. It's like they cut to the hotel room and they're like, "Where'd she go? Oh, she went to get this." I'm like, "Oh shit, they're all going to die."
and she gets hauled away, but like she's still got that killer instinct
Converted.
in her,
Yeah. She's 100% turned to like wanting the life of
to the
crime.
life of crime, the thrill, the excitement.
Should probably write better country songs.
Yeah, sure. Most country singers spent some time in the clink.
Yeah, definitely. There's also, before that, they kind of give a little leeway to the criminals by way of the police shooting up the wrong hotel room in a sequence that and they're just kind of like, let's cover this up, kind of deal.
Yeah, kind of a who is more moral? Is it the authorities or the criminals? Who truly is the villain in this? Yeah, it's also, I think, a sharper movie than people. But I think people say that about a lot of exploitation. I think people forget that these guys were all students of film. A lot of the producers were in it just to make the quick buck, but they would seek out the right talent to make these kinds of movies, and they would elevate these from what people think.
Well, they're allowed to be a little more honest in the exploitation as well. They're allowed to give they give the actors a little bit more freedom. They can just say what they want because it's going to be on the exploitation circuit. So it's allowed to be a little bit more freer so they can.
Yeah, they mentioned on the commentary, Mark Lester mentions on the audio commentary on the Kino Lorber disc that people want their movies to just go into cans right away now. And he's like, no, like back then, it's not how you did it. And he seems to have preferred it that way, where you just kind of hung out on the drive-in circuit for a while. And those are all Roger Corman and Samuel Arkoff proteges.
Yeah.
And those a lot of them have become the A-list directors of their day. I mean, Scorsese, James Cameron,
Coppola,
countless other ones that I'm probably forgetting.
Yeah. Like, I think Dante was with Corman for
Dante. Yeah. And his, he's obviously his stink is on this a little bit because he and the actress Belinda Balaski obviously became friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely more interesting time. Just like I said, like I've said long on the show that I still enjoy movies today, even blockbusters. But like there's a lot more calculated efforts now rather than sloppy. Like I appreciate a little bit of sloppy, a little bit like if you're going like,
And I often joke that, Mike, you see this movie? Like, nah, man, it was made after 1995. I've never seen that before. Right. But I did the festival circuit, and there's a lot of new stuff I like. I'm a big fan of Joe Bagos's output. I liked Bliss and VFW as far as when you're talking in the exploitation and genre world. But something I just can't get down with is I don't like the low budget aesthetic of today versus the low budget aesthetic of the 70s. And that just is because things looked cooler in the 70s. People smoked, people drank, people led rough lives,
the film stock wasn't always pretty too.
They wore cool clothes. And like even with digital filmmaking, as somebody who has shot short films, somebody who has shot stuff, I can't believe that I can shoot and edit shit on my phone in a night, like in 10 minutes to put it on social media to advertise my bartending shift. I can't believe it, but I cannot believe that low budget filmmakers haven't figured out an inexpensive way to make digital films look, pardon my French, look shitty, look a little grimy, and to me that looks more real. And I'm not talking just throwing the Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez grindhouse filter.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the mistake. Yeah.
Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and of course that was shot on film, looks great. I know, why can't you do that? You can do anything else. Why can't you make digital look like film? I just don't understand. Or at least give it some sort of aesthetic that isn't just blue and red and pink lighting.
I think David Fincher's done it. He's not going for that grindhouse look, but he's done
a good job with
he's kept his aesthetic tight through his transition from film to digital.
And it's an aesthetic that I appreciate. But like somebody like Michael Mann, like I prefer his 80s output.
Oh yeah.
And I appreciate that he was experimental with digital filmmaking early, because there's so many pluses to it. So many pluses to it. You can just shoot and shoot and shoot, and it's relatively inexpensive. But when we're talking about low budget genre filmmaking, that real harsh light where everything is crisp and clean and everybody feels like they're just trying to get a shout out on the One Perfect Shot website, like where everything is so stylized. Like that was something with Promising Young Woman where I liked the kind of candy coated pop art colors, but some of the shots where I'm just like, oh god, this is this
There
is
are,
too
but
much. You're drawing attention to it, and I didn't like it, but
I thought she was visually chatting with you with certain things, so I
okay.
appreciate. So there's a lot. I got the second or third time I watched it, I was like, oh, I could possibly watch this on mute and get what's going on really well, because
Okay.
I think she
All right.
I think she talked talked visually very well with it, which yes, I could see it getting being like, yeah, one perfect shot, got it. I could totally see that, but I actually have seen it to where I'm like, I think she really is got a mute movie where you could enjoy it just as much on mute.
Yeah. And I love a good visual eye. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, but like something like this, there's a lot of great shots of the vistas of New Mexico, which I'll tell you what, I over to towards the end of summer, a good friend, one of my best friends and I,
Mhm.
my buddy Dan Lynch, his mom lives in Arizona, was giving him a car. We had to fly out there to go pick it up and drive back.
Okay.
And it still looks exactly like it does in Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw. And like,
Oh wow.
it's just such beautiful country.
Well,
And like a lot of that's just nature. And who's the cinema? It's funny, the cinematographer on this, we didn't talk about him. but
No,
here's-
I forgot. I didn't even think. I forgot to look him up. Like I
Well, I
normally
did
do that
because
one, but
because it was interesting because they mentioned on the commentary that he shot it under a pseudonym. He shot it
oh,
under the pseudonym Stanley Wright.
okay.
And his real name is Gil Hubbs. And he works a lot with Seinfeld now. It looks like on videography for DVDs, Blu-rays, that stuff.
Oh, okay.
But he shot Enter the Dragon.
Oh,
Pretty cool.
that's yeah. Wow.
Oh, you know who else shows up in this? You know who was an assistant director on this was Chuck Russell.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, who did Nightmare on Elm
In-
Street
in
3,
the,
The Blob.
The Blob.
Yeah, Scorpion King, co-wrote Dreamscape. And he also plays one of the deputies at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, that's that's what I love about this. They're like, we don't have enough people for the. Just go put one of them on. Go stand in there. Like,
If I was at a film set, that was always me. We need some guy. Put Mike in a hat. Have him stand back there.
There you go.
I call it the art of being a good sport.
Right. Yeah.
Let's get this done.
Well, and there's a thing also with these movies you mentioned, like with the old thing. There's a sense of danger in just the filmmaking that's not there anymore. Granted, good thing people live nowadays, but like these cars roll over somebody, just
They used real bullets on this movie.
right. And I talk. Oh, they did.
For like the sequences where they were shooting like the cans and everything or practicing, they used real bullets, and I don't think we could get away with that these days.
No, but like there's movies. We were just talking about one. I talked about the Wraith a couple weeks ago, and
I was talking about that on
Windy City Double Features. I heard
the
it.
sleep. Oh no, was it Windy City Double Feature? We talked about it.
You talked about
Because it's a cool.
Or as other
movie.
countries called it, Black Moon Rising 2. But
really, really,
yeah.
That's funny. That's great.
But they blew up a garage in that movie, and I'm just like, people had to like duck and cover on set. Somebody got hit by debris. Did they clean it all up? Like all these things. And I just love the real explosions. I love the real car. I love the generic oop, dink, blow up.
Oh, you want to talk about stunts and Mark Lester?
Yeah.
He did one of New Line's earlier productions. He directed Stunts from 1997.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
With Robert Forster.
Yeah.
And who's the guy who I'm thinking of? He plays a great villain. He's in the Puppet Master 3. He's not Klaus Kinski, but he has a Klaus Kinski vibe, and he's
I know who you're talking about, and it's we can look it up. It gets deleted. People will see it on the uncut version, but if you listen to the one I want you to, where it's not uncut, let's see. Oh, Richard Lynch, the guy with the
Richard
burnt
Lynch.
face.
Shame
Yes,
on
the
me.
guy with the
God
burnt
damn.
face. Yeah, Richard Lynch. Yes. Oh yeah.
But he's Stunts. Another great Mark Lester joint. Written by, I believe, co-written by Barney Cohen, who co-wrote the Happy Hooker Goes to Washington and Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter.
Yeah, my favorite Friday. So there you go. Yeah.
It's hard to argue that one. I think that one sits at the top of my list as well.
Yeah, I think Katie said like she's on Friday the 13th fan, but she's like, I was saying something about that, and she's like, well, that's the Feldman one. She's like, wait, yeah, that's the one you show people. Like that's if you want the best of what it offers, plus the chance to be scared during it, there it is. It's all there, and you got a recap at the beginning. So
yeah, it's I always say it's the quintessential Friday the 13th film because it delivers everything you want out of those kinds of movies.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll move on to what else? Since we were
Yeah, absolutely. I
drifting.
do that. This is I love when it goes off into
yeah.
so many other tangents. I love talking about all this weird Hollywood exploitation trivia.
Start
I love
out
it.
where to go. All right. So this is what else? This is where we talk about anything we may have read, listened to, watched, or written, podcasted about, produced. So Mike, what else?
So let me see. So we got, of course, Halloweenies podcast is rocking and rolling. I do recommend anybody who's listening to the show, if you enjoy this, I do recommend looking into the Patreon. We have several tiers. So we, of course, offer this season, we're covering the Scream franchise. But because there's only 4 movies, we have to fill out the rest of the year because we do an episode a month. So we're filling it in with Randy's recommendations. We're doing movies that were mentioned and referenced in the Scream films. We did Prom Night from 1980. And next month, we'll be doing Joe Dante's werewolf classic, although not my favorite werewolf movie of 1981, The Howling. And the Patreon episodes, we always have the Rental in the Aisle, where we do a deep dive on an episode on a film that if you give us if you pay us, if you go on our Patreon and join at that tier, we will do a movie of your choice, which is how we ended up doing Sleepaway Camp, one of my absolute favorites. And also one where we do a commentary. We are doing a commentary for Phantasm next month, another one of my absolute favorites.
Phantasm rocks.
That I think, again, to tie it into Bobbie, Joe, and the Outlaw, I think why I like that movie so much, it's very much a hangout picture as well. And it has those great 70s aesthetics.
And it's spooky still. Like, I think the right person, I recommend, like, with people like nowadays watching the horror movies by themselves. Well, now it's easy, but
I think it's required by the state, actually.
But I think to give honest, like, old horror movies and stuff a chance, put your phone down, go sit in a dark room late at night.
Turn off the lights, lean into it.
Give it its best chance.
You want to talk about a mute movie? Phantasm is a great movie to put on at the bar because it's so visually stunning. I often refer to it as an American version of an Italian horror film.
Oh, no. It's right there. And I honestly think John Carpenter's Halloween has a lot of that going for it, too, visually.
Absolutely.
Like Kim and Cundy, you could tell we're into that stuff. And that's what I think, Cundy starts getting a rep for bringing that vibe to America a bit. But yeah, that's definitely got a lot of Italian. With Coscarelli, right? Yeah.
Madonna Coscarelli.
Coscarelli, even though he sounds nothing.
No. Nicest guy in the world, too. I have interviewed him.
Okay.
And I tell you what, the whole, we did, me and Matt Wedge from Daily Grindhouse, we sat down with Reggie Bannister, Don Coscarelli, and the guy who directed Phantasm Ravager, whose name's escaping right now, but a real nice dude. And we just had a great time shooting the shit with those guys.
Oh, I bet. And
then, check out Windy City Double Feature. And then as far as what I've been watching, like, I'll tell you, with all this podcasting, I've been appearing on a lot of other people's shows. It's been a lot of homework.
Oh, yeah.
Lately. But 2 gems that I watched that I'd seen before, but I rewatched it. I really highly recommend. I really dig, I think a lot of people do, made-for-TV horror from the 1970s. And I did Gargoyles and Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Oh, I've seen Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Gargoyles is absolutely worth a watch. Flies by. You got Bernie Casey as the head gargoyle. Lots of cool Stan Winston. He worked on it. He didn't create the effects, but he was part of it. Of course, now his name is right on top of the DVD box. And I tracked down Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Okay,
which is another classic.
That's a classic
made for TV horror. And you could probably watch all 3 of those in one night and still be able to be in bed before midnight.
Right.
So.
Now, Are You Afraid of the Dark's on Warner Archive Blu-ray now, I believe.
Oh,
I think I reviewed that. I reviewed that one. Yeah.
It was hard. I couldn't even find it on YouTube. It was so hard to track down for a long time.
They really need to start doing box sets of I know it'd probably take a ton of contracts, everything, but like box sets of like TV movies from the 70s and 80s, because it's really, I don't think people understand how different, like people put effort. These were like treated almost real movie, just lower budget, lower resources, but they really went at them.
They really did, and they really tried to make them scary. Another one of my favorites from that era is Don't Go to Sleep, which has one of the creepiest endings of all time.
Right, and it's more than just those Stephen King miniseries. Those were the exception. Those were really they went all out into those. But there were other movies, like John Carpenter had one, like
the eyes. Somebody's watching me.
Somebody's watching me. Yep.
Which is very good. Very good one.
Very good, yeah. And there's just all sorts of, you'll find all sorts of like top-notch people. I really think like Disney's missing out with, I mean, they're putting some of them on Disney Plus, but their Wide World of Disney Sunday night movies, they have a lot of like crazy stuff they were doing.
Watch Her in the Woods, right?
Watch Her in the Woods, or there's Mr. Boogedy came out right
Mr.
away.
Boogedy was I enjoyed Mr. Boogedy in
right
the
when
80s,
Disney Plus came out. I'm like, is Mr. Boogedy on there? I'm like, yes, it is.
I can't believe they haven't put.
But
that
I
on there.
want them to put the whole thing, because they look really weird, because they used to come after a Michael Eisner introduction and then he closed it out too. So when you hit him now, it's just like, this is started. Okay, like it's weird. There's no logos, nothing, and then when it ends, it's kind of just abrupt. So they really should put those on the wraparounds.
I agree. And I want them to put. They need to put DTV Monster Hits from 1988 on there.
There you go.
With the original commercials when it aired on October 29th, 1980. I think it was October 31st.
People would dig that. Like I have an they over in the UK, the place called Network put out a collection of the Cybernauts episodes from the old Avengers, the Stephen Peele Avengers. But there's an option to watch it with commercial breaks, with old commercials.
Oh, I love
inserted back in. I'm like, that's how I'm watching it.
That's one of the things I love about Night Fight Plus, which is a
Night Flight,
a streaming service I make it a point to subscribe to every year. They do old episodes of Night Flight with the original commercials, and it's just, you want to talk about a nostalgia bomb. Nostalgia gets a bad rap, but sometimes it's just what I need on Friday night. You know, I think I might have been doing the same thing in 1988, although far too young to understand anything that was going on.
Well, I'd love for someone to do that with like USA Up All Night. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Just
the Sedaris films. They did Friday the 13th marathons, all Rhonda and then Gilbert. Yeah.
Rhonda and Gilbert. I loved it. I used to introduce that, and they didn't have host segments, but TBS Nightflix always has a special place in my heart, because that's the first place where I saw heavy metal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. My what else is I finally watched. I bought it almost a year ago. Fulci for Fake. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. What's the story with this?
So this is a biopic documentary on Lucio Fulci. This guy, it starts with him putting makeup on to look like Lucio, and then he goes. You have interviews with is it Simonotti, the composer that worked with him a bunch?
Yes, it is.
And it's the only ever interview with his daughter. She's got like a health issue handicap that she's had for years, but she agreed, and she's really radiant and talking about him and stuff. You kind of get about who he was as his home life, his mind, but they're like, you know, he did like 40 movies before he got into the horror stuff, but nobody cares.
nobody cares about it.
They brush over it. They're like,
nobody knows. Nobody talked about it.
This is where his mind came open, and you get it's just it has an interesting way of telling itself. It's short. It's like 90 minutes, but it's all Italian.
I love short, as we've discussed.
Yes, I like short too. The 90 to 100 minute movie is far underappreciated nowadays.
We had Army of Darkness on at the bar the other night, and I always tell people that's the movie that made me realize that 80 minutes is the perfect length for a movie, because that movie does everything it's supposed to do and then some, and then it's over.
Yeah, I tend to like watching. I stay up late, and I like to watch multiple movies in a night. Same. And then when you got like 2.5 hour movie, you're like, that one kills you, and you're like, well, it's like 2. I was like, you know, I don't know, like the movies I have on my to watch list or something will be too long. I'm like, well, you're the one this evening. Like, I want to watch a bunch
anything over an hour 45 or with subtitles usually gets put on the back burner, because I'm usually like you, I'm watching them late. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay attention or stay up.
Yeah. So the subtitle thing, like, it's not like, foreign movies. Like,
no,
it's my eyes. I can't read at night and not fall asleep. Like, that's
I really have to pay attention now, you know?
Like I always say, I've told on this podcast, I like to give a movie its best shot. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I'm grumpy that day, I won't watch something I was looking forward to, because it's already I'm already against myself on it. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fulci for Fake. It's it's pretty good. Like, I love Fulci, so I was really into it. So if you're not into Lucio Fulci, I don't know if this is going to do this, but they also talk about, like,
I love Fulci. House by the Cemetery is one of my favorite horror films of the 80s. and one of my favorite Italian horror films.
I'm a Beyond guy. Like that one,
I like that one as well.
I started not liking it, and now every Halloween I watch The Beyond. It's odd.
Well,
it's
The
weird.
Beyond is another one that's a total hangout movie where you're almost better off. We showed it last year for Fat Tuesday at Cigars and Stripes when I was programming the monster movie double features on the last Tuesday of the month. We did it with JD's Revenge for Fat Tuesday, you know, because of the New Orleans theme. And it's just a great movie to have on at the bar where you can drink and you can talk and you can look up and see the spider attack.
Right.
Or any of the other, you know, goofy Italian stuff that happens in that movie.
Yeah. And I love it. I think the one like City of the Living Dead, that's the for everyone one of those, that little trio of movies. I think like that's the like instant gratification one that pop on and people watch that. But yeah, Flow Super Fake, you can get it from Severin Films. They have
love what they're doing. Love Severin Films.
There's too many of them now that I'm like, I don't have the money for you guys.
I'll tell you what, the thing that I love most about Vinegar Syndrome, aside from the fact that they do a lot of the fuck films that I enjoy, is the yearly subscription.
Sex World in 4K.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the subscription thing because I mean, $800 is a lot of fucking money, and I usually have to, you know, scrimp and save to get it. But if more places offered that, I would probably give them the money up front. I like to tell myself that's my way of
stunned. Criterion doesn't do that. I'm stunned.
Yeah, that's my way of supporting film restoration. You get my $800 a year because that money up front means a lot to a place like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that helps them out. And I mean, they started out just doing it for shits and giggles, and now they have a huge following. Like they were just restoring and like, well, we'll just, you know, they started putting them up slowly.
And if any of them listen to this, I'd be happy to step in on any fuck film commentaries.
There you go. Yeah,
I have a lot to say about Jamie Gillis, one of my favorites.
I will say, like, as the Arrows and Shout Factory start to get more prestigious stuff from the studios, they're getting more into the
junk.
They were into the junk. They were
the junk because I love the junk.
But they're getting more. They're gonna get more prestigious junk and stuff like that. But don't give up on the junk.
Yeah,
I just got Rush Week shipped today from them. I'm excited, and their Giallo box sets. I love those.
Yeah, I have the Giallo box sets, but I have not dove into those.
I have 1 and 2. I haven't picked. I'm waiting on 3 for the next sale.
It's coming up. It'll have already happened by the time this episode airs. Yeah. But yeah, I like what they're doing. I cleaned up on their Valentine's Day sale because all the erotic cinema was half off, and I made a pretty good haul on it, honest to God.
Excellent. All right, well, that'll do it for today, Mike. Thank you for coming back, and
thank you for having me, Brandon.
I hope you're always open to returning again.
This was a great chat. This was even more fun than the Jason Goes to Hell one. This was great.
Excellent. Well, thanks. And always such a groovy time just talking film stuff with you. Well, maybe we won't even talk a movie. We'll just start with something and see how we
see where it goes. That would be fun. That would be a fun experiment. Although it'd be awful if it failed miserably.
Sorry, listeners, it's coming. Oh yeah. So
Transformers the movie. We'll do Transformers the movie.
Transformers the movie. Yes. So one last time, where can people keep up with your work and musings?
So find me. My favorite social media is Twitter. It's a lot of people's least favorite, but I mute and block all the right people. So it's my favorite. You can find me there at Mike Vanderbilt. I was an early adapter, which is why I have my name. I don't have to put up with like The Real or Mike Vanderbilt Writes or some dumb shit like that. Or you can find me on Instagram at MA Vanderbilt. And of course, follow me at Halloweenies Pod and Windy City Double Feature on Twitter and Instagram. And then if you're in the Chicagoland area, come and see me Saturdays, Sundays, or Tuesdays at the Rock Island Public House in beautiful downtown Blue Island, Illinois on Old Western Avenue. And of course, we have our drive-in going strong. Let's see. So this episode will drop Monday, which means, we'll be doing the first week of April. We're doing a special Easter-themed weekend with the British gangster classic, The Long Good Friday, on Friday.
That's a great movie.
Jackie Kong's The Being, one of my favorite creature features from the early 80s, on Saturday. And Monty Python's Life of Brian on Sunday.
Awesome. I usually double Life of Brian and Last Temptation of Christ that weekend.
Perfect. What a combo. I love it.
My Jesus. All right.
Maybe Baby Huey's Easter Adventure, which was a favorite of Mike McPadden's. If I can track down a digital copy of that.
There we go. Awesome. Yeah, check it out if you live near. Within an hour drive.
Within an hour drive. That's near enough.
Go. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. My written works at whysoblue.com. There is more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But until then, when talking movies online, keep it like Mike Vanderbilt.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.